The 2020-23-24 women's college basketball season ended with perfection, as the South Carolina Gamecocks went 38-0 and won the program's third NCAA championship. Can the Gamecocks run it back? That's one of the biggest questions that will shape the 2024-25 season. Which player will fill the game's brightest spotlight now that Caitlin Clark, the two-time National Player of the Year, is gone? What should we expect from last season's exciting freshman class, led by USC's Juju Watkins? How will the breakup of the Pac-12 impact the sport? With the season tipping off November 4th, we look at 10 of the biggest questions heading into the 2024-2025 season. Can the Gamecocks win back-to-back titles? Yes, they can. But they might look a little different doing it, at least early on, since the Gamecocks guards might be ahead of their post play. Center Camila Cardoso, the number 3 pick in the 2024 draft by the Chicago Sky, led South Carolina last season in points, rebounds, blocks, and field goal percentage. But the next two scoring leaders, guards Mylasia Fulwiley, 11.7 points per game, and Tihina Paupau, OMP, return. South Carolina still has a lot of talent in the post, including freshman Joyce Edwards. But forward Ashlyn Watkins, 9.2 ppg, 7.4 rebounds per game, has been suspended since an August 31 arrest on charges of first-degree assault and battery and kidnapping. Her court appearance set for October 25th was rescheduled. Another undefeated season seems like a lot to ask, but the Gamecocks are still first in the national championship discussion. Vopo. Can UConn return to the mountaintop? UConn is the gold standard of college basketball with 11 national titles, but the Huskies haven't been the last team standing since 2016, Breanna Stewart's senior year. The Huskies reached the Final Four in all but one season in that span and played in the 2022 national title game. Could this be the year they finally win that 12th championship? Former National Player of the Year, Paige Bueckers, is hungry to make it happen in her final season in stores before heading to the WNBA. She'll have a lot on her shoulders leading a relatively young and inexperienced, albeit talented team, following the departures of Aaliyah Edwards and Nika Mole. The program will need to have better luck with health than it has experienced the past few years to get back to the mountaintop. Philippou, can the LA schools get to the Final Four? USC and UCLA were two of the most exciting teams to watch last season. Watkins brought the Trojans back to prominence for the first time in decades, while Lauren Betts, Kiki Rice, and Charisma Osborne led a deep Bruins squad. Both teams should be even better this year. USC brought in transfers Kiki Iriafen, Stanford, and Talia von Oelhoffen, Oregon State, plus a stacked freshman class to help Watkins. In Westwood, coach Corey Close snagged intriguing transfers in Jania Barker, Texas A&M, Tamia Gardner, Oregon State, and Charlize Ledger-Walker, Washington State. The battle for the Big Ten will preview both teams' push to get to the Final Four. USC for the first time since 1986, and UCLA for the first time in the NCAA era. Philippou. Who will win Player of the Year? The favorites going into the season are sophomore Watkins, 27.1 ppg, 7.3 rpg, 3 assists per game, and senior Bueckers, 21.9 ppg, 5.2 rpg, 3.8 apg, who was the consensus Player of the Year her freshman season in 2020-21. Other candidates might emerge during the season, depending on how their teams perform. While South Carolina is the favorite at number 1, the Gamecocks' depth of talent is such that they don't have an obvious Player of the Year candidate. Voipel. Which freshmen or transfers will make the biggest splash? Last year's freshman class made waves all season long. So did a host of transfers. So which newcomers, incoming freshmen or transfers to new programs, will prove to be difference makers in 24-25? As far as the freshmen go, UConn is the only program with 2 top 10 recruits, headlined by number 1 prospect Sarah Strong. Jelani Cambridge was a huge get for Ohio State, especially considering the program's graduation losses. Joyce Edwards, who decided to stay home and go to South Carolina, has already received rave reviews from Coach Dawn Staley. Aside from the aforementioned transfers into the LA schools, Reagan Beers, Oregon State to Oklahoma, Georgia Amoore, Virginia Tech to Kentucky, and Lucy Olson, Villanova to Iowa, are among the key players to watch. Philippou. How will players back from injuries fare? 3 big-name guards missed all. Notre Dame's Olivia Miles, most, UConn's Azzi Fudd, or a large part, Texas's Roy Harmon, of last season due to knee injuries. All are expected back, although Fudd probably won't play until December. They are dynamic players who can make a big difference in their team's national championship potential. Other players to watch after injury. UConn center Jonna El Alfi, Achilles, is expected to make her long-awaited college debut. LSU forward Samaya Smith, knee, played 7 games last season, could be a big help in making up for the loss of Angel Reese to the WNBA. Guard KK Deans, knee, played 6 games, should give Ole Miss perimeter scoring a boost. Vape. How deep can Hidalgo-Miles backcourt take the Irish? With Miles out, Irish fans were robbed of a year of a Hannah Hidalgo-Miles backcourt. But we'll get to finally see that dynamic duo, and Coach Neela Ivey already has said the pairing is going to be electric. With Miles and Hidalgo leading the charge, optimism is high in South Bend that this is the year the Irish, the ACC preseason favorites, can advance past the Sweet 16 for the first time in Ivey's tenure. What should we expect of Stanford in a new era? Of all the coaching changes, none is bigger than Stanford not having legendary Tara Vanderveer on the sideline for the first time since she took over in 1985. Kate Pay takes over, and we'll see how different the Cardinal might look under Vanderveer's former player and longtime assistant. There's also a big change in personnel, with Cameron Brink moving on to the WNBA, Iriafen transferring, and Hannah Jump completing her eligibility. They were the Cardinals' top 3 scorers from a 30-6 season. Stanford is difficult to project right now because so much is new, but the Cardinal playing in the ACC will be as strange as anything. Vopal. What will Iowa, Kentucky, and Tennessee look like under new leadership? The situation at Iowa is most similar to Stanford, with Lisa Bluter stepping down after 24 years, and her assistant during that time, Jan Jensen, taking over. The Hawkeyes lost not just a generational star in Clark, but players such as starting guards Kate Martin and Gabby Marshall as well. That said, forward Hannah Stuelke is primed for a big junior season, and Jensen should get the best out of this group. Kentucky is still seeking its first Final Four on the women's side. Coach Kenny Brooks made that breakthrough at Virginia Tech, so maybe he can do it with the Wildcats. It likely won't happen this season, but give Brooks time to establish his system. At Tennessee, Kim Caldwell will try to transfer her up-tempo offensive and defensive style to the SEC after success last year at Marshall. Caldwell doesn't have much Division I experience, so she will have to learn on the fly in a hyper-competitive league. Vapal. How will realignment impact college basketball? The past year's realignment whirlwind and the disintegration of the Pac-12 will undoubtedly take some getting used to, particularly with Stanford and Cal now in the ACC, and USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon in the Big Ten. But which programs will make the most noise in their new leagues? The LA schools are at the top of the list, with both slotted as the top 2 teams in the Big Ten preseason poll. In the SEC, Texas was projected to finish behind South Carolina, and Oklahoma was picked to come in 4th. Could the Longhorns, a top 5 preseason team nationally, challenge the Gamecocks? None of the ACC newcomers seem likely to emerge as conference contenders. In the Big 12, Kansas State and Iowa State figure to be the favorites, with the Longhorns and Sooners gone. Filippo.